scoreline. This, I mean, I entirely agree with Cadril, by the way. I think it's been super unlucky for C9 so far. I think that they're a much better team than what a 0-4 is going to say, and we'll see whether they can prove it up against Pentanet.gg right now.
They basically have to, because the level of expectation for this team coming into the tournament was pretty hot. And as you said, I saw the Damwon game, and I was fairly certain that was going to be a straight-up, easy-peasy win for them. And there's been multiple of those, right? And you got to imagine at some point, their luck's got to turn around. And of course, it's not luck. Of course, it's all these elements that were really dove into expertly by the desk.
Yeah.
And for this draft, I'm going to agree with them. I just want to see something comfortable here for C9. I want to see a draft. Sure, pick up the Udyr, early power coming through here for Blabber. Give them a front line, give them an easy go button, a composition that can do multiple things, doesn't shoehorn you into a specific playstyle, so that even in the unlikely scenario with how dominant C9 generally have been in the early game, that you fall behind, you can still come back and not have to worry.
Well, let's see how it does go, as we are very well and truly into this pick and ban. Already the Gnar, Varus, and Thresh banned away on the blue side by C9, and we've got Lucian, Lee Sin, and Renekton taken off the board. The answer, of course, will be the Udyr, who has pulled ahead of the other powerhouse junglers in the Rumble and the Morgana. That one's going to be locked in first up. The center here next for C9 is something that we saw them fall prey to in the hands of Damwon Kia yesterday. And the Nautilus that has been certainly surging into the top of priority alongside the Morgana, as there is Praetor Samira. This is his most successful pick so far.
And that is a big statement to make. The one thing, it's into Tahm Kench, and that is where I'm a little bit scared. I think that as a whole, the Samira can do really nicely into Senna, because once you're actually on top of Senna and you can blow her up, you can tone down the scaling that we did so, as you already pointed out, come into action against C9 specifically, right? When Ghost finally hit those 120 souls, it was basically over. There was nothing they could do, and Samira, in theory, is really good at counteracting that. However, I don't know with that Tahm Kench whether or not C9 are going to let that happen. Really happy with this Urgot banner. I think Biopanther has actually really positively surprised me with how consistently he's been able to play. His Urgot in particular was super good, and this Sylas ban is also, considering the final game of the finals in the LCS, I'm like, yeah, that Sylas ban feels good. I understand that one.
Yes, certainly is. And we've seen some pretty ridiculous Sylas pickups as well. The Gnar already banned out, of course, one of Sylas's favorites when it comes to stealing away ultimates. As, like you were mentioning, it is a bit of a Biopanther focus here from the top side of the map. Maybe Fudge is sort of remembering some times where him on Mammoth played up against Direwolves. Not entirely sure, because that was quite a bit ago now. As that will be the Syndra locked in, so pretty standard stuff there, as Morgana Syndra definitely a lot of pick potential if we move into the mid-game as far as the jungle mid-duo is concerned.
This is setting up for a better situation for Pabu than we've seen in the past, where there is a lot more prio already on the map, right? The Samira Nautilus has a lot of early game power. The Syndra, we have seen many a team prioritize that. It's fallen off a little bit already. Of course, we still see it a lot because Showmaker loves it.
Yes.
But it can still, against basically any pick, if you play it well, get early prio, and that should get Pabu in a better position, because he's had some, we talked about unlucky for C9. Pabu also had not had the greatest moments, you know. I think that the game against DK, where his entire jungle basically got taken, and then he also tried to counter-invade, and it went very wrong.
It certainly did birth some fantastic memes, though, about Pabu not heading towards enemy blue buffs, which is a lot of fun. Yorick is going to be locked in. We forgot about Yorick Mori, but he's back again. And Biopanther is going to be taking that one into the Jace. Now, Yorick's been, he went through a bunch of different nerfs and buffs and all sorts of crazy stuff. Where did he land, Chronicler? Do you have any Yorick dark technology that you've figured out?
I wanted to talk about the Zoe Jace, because that's a combo that I really like. The C9 composition is it is execution heavy, but the Yorick here is really interesting. I kind of would have expected PGG to go with a continuation of what they've had so far, which is just a lot of early game power, a lot of team fighting. However, I have heard that from a very reliable source, which is just a Yorick one-trick that was very high up in the US ladder. And you need to kind of one-trick Yorick, right? Because it's such a unique and it's a weird champion. has an incredible matchup into Jace. Like, once you get some levels, in general, Yorick in a 1v1 is an absolute nightmare. And it's something that we haven't seen in competitive for so long because of how strong the Drakes are, right? And I think it's a big risk, but I'm all there for Pantana taking big risks because I think that we saw it do them against RNG, where they went for the lane swap, and sure, it didn't work out in the end. It didn't get them the win, but it got them an early lead. It allowed them to play their game, and this Yorick might just do the same thing.
I'm incredibly excited. I've been a massive fan of Yorick throughout my entire League of Legends career. I admit it was largely when he'd just drop ghouls on people. That is no longer the case, really. But with all of the changes that have happened over the past couple of patches, it is going to be very interesting to see how that matchup has evolved. Of course, Graves everywhere towards the top side of the map as Pradith already under a little bit of fire here as Vulcan and Sven just moving on forward. Pradith will be okay, but softened up for the moment as C9 patrolling over a ward, but will get the initial aggression out.
And that's the value of the Glacial Augment. Deco needs to be a little bit careful, but he can get away there. And yeah, once you hit your first auto attack on the Senna, more will follow, as we saw there. However, not the end of the world. Pradith can just go back, and that will be the end of that. I want to see a lot of attention being paid towards his top side, though, because I do imagine that a Biopanther on the Yorick, one of his most definite weak spots is in the early game, he's super susceptible to ganks, right? He doesn't really have any way of getting out of them unless he can somehow trap both Fudge and Blabber in a cage and run away. Like that's not the greatest evade strategy, I'd personally say, though. And as a whole, I can't wait to see this. I just love seeing new picks, and we have not seen a Yorick in competitive in a very long time.
It has certainly been a while. I liken Yorick's playstyle very similar to that of an Alawi, which we have, you know, in the past had a lot of Alawi players as LCK people. However, even that, with Ixu leaving the league, has come to an end. So this is really cool. Sort of the dedicated split push, pulls out the maiden who we used to very affectionately call Julia. Not entirely sure why. I'll have to have a chat to LS about that because he came up with it, and I'm just not sure why her name's Julia, but it is. I think that's canon now, as well, as we like to just decide things like that over here. So far, though, I mean, of course, Biopanther is going to struggle in the fact that it is ranged versus melee for the majority of the time into a chase, but he's going to happily pick up this wave underneath the turret.
Yeah, the early game isn't great. It's not until you get a couple of levels and get a little bit more damage under your belt that you can actually start threatening. And with this Pantana composition, I personally would have loved for them to go for something like a Wukong, which is something that Mad Lions have used repeatedly. Our Mud has had great performances on that because I feel like it fits a little bit better into the team composition while still being a super strong counter to the Jace or a Malphite. But this does give Biopanther a lot more abilities. What I am a little bit sad to see is the fact that both Chaz and Pradith and Deco are getting aggressively pushed in here, and that means that Pabu's possible contention on this bot side Scuttle Crab is basically not going to happen, and that might lead to a double Scuttle situation, which I said in Champ Select, I was kind of happy that they had lanes that allowed them not to have that to happen, and now it's starting to look like it might still very much happen.
Yeah, Pabu actually going to throw out the Dark Binding, miss it, and then walk away. That is the plan. And of course, not going to be able to fight Blabber, as you mentioned. Bot prio is very important there, as now you've got Blabber running all the way towards that topside Scuttle. Now there's a few people getting a little bit nervous here as Biopanther's going to lose out on that trade right there, as that's another binding connecting here. Perk's going down very low. First blood after the flash, and Pabu picks it up. Now Blabber will start on this Scuttle, and it looks like Pabu might let him live just this time around, but a great beginning here for Pentanet.gg.
I'm just baffled, Atlas, because we've seen the fights around Scuttle. This is not even around Scuttle. This is about securing priority so he can fight for Scuttle. And an overstep from Perks, not something we're really used to seeing from him. And it means an early kill for Pabu. Sure, he gets double Scuttled, but if you get a free kill to go, then you're still going to be more than happy, as Morgana keeps him relevant in terms of XP. And yeah, I'm pretty sure here in the new X-Factor replay, it literally just a scatter into a binding, and that's it. It's like it's really not. There's not much more to say about it than that, and that comes from, again, C9 trying to set up, right? Trying to set up Blabber for success, but it has as a result that you can't afford to overstep. And giving up kills like that this early, especially for a team like C9 who already have so much pressure on them, it's not great.
No, certainly isn't. You can see Biopanther starting to have a better time up here towards the top side, as well as, of course, the CS will equalize after that wave is eaten by the Jace. Here on the bottom side, though, Pentanet.gg continuing just to struggle with all of the added range that C9 do have down here, especially with the extraordinary amount of safety that they also have going for them. Vulcan just getting some deep vision there towards the bottom side of the map. And it looks like C9 does still own the map, despite the fact that that first blood did go over to Pentanet.gg. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Blabber has been getting around this jungle just a little bit faster.
And it's, of course, not the end of the world, right? The kill was unfortunate, but C9 clearly not really getting thrown off by it. They still have prio in basically every lane, Biopanther notwithstanding. Vulcan and Sven have been laying so much pressure on Praetive and Decoy, and Blubber is actually able to play around it, right? Sure, Perks died, but he still got a double scuttle. They will get the first Drake here, which puts them in a much happier position than they would otherwise be, although Decoy might be looking for him here.
Oh, man, he needs one extra link on that anchor's chain, and he would have been able to pick up the Udyr there with that one. Not sure what would have eventuated, as of course it is just the Nautilus there, but still very, very close.
Praetive was standing at the blast cone and was like, can I? No, I cannot, unfortunately, as Pabu will be spotted there.
Yep, he's going to be able to clear out this ward as the bubble does go wide. Scatter the Weak going to miss as well as Black Shield there, just to deter Perks from throwing any more magical things towards the Syndra. And Pentanet.gg will just accept the fact that this game is extraordinarily even at 6.5 minutes in. And I think there's one thing that I imagine is on everyone's minds, mine included, is where does this Yorick factor in to how Pentanet.gg win this game? Because I'm used to seeing Yoriks just sit in a side lane with Julia and smack down turrets over and over again.
Speaking of Julia, there she is.
Yeah,
hello.
Hi, Julia.
It's been a while.
It really has. It really has. As Pabu's going to turn up as well. Of course, Julia, very popular. Going to have a lot of friends. As Fudge, going to have to just step away from this one. The Maiden of the Mists, definitely dangerous, as Blabber is going to find Pabu here alongside Fudge. But Baby Cage comes out, and Binding also connects, as Pentanet.gg will just drive on by.
And it's a flash into a cage. And I was joking about it earlier, but in this scenario, it actually does work out really, really well.
It is a very anti-Udyr spell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't even really thought of that.
No, neither of us had. And I'm happy that you pointed that out, because we really got thrown off by the Yorick. Unfortunately, Julia does get taken down, so need to wait a little bit before we see her again. But I actually wonder what Pentanet is going to do here, because I do feel that with the Yorick in the side lane, it might be a possible solution to the problem that C9 is going to create for them in the mid to late game, which is this is an insanely strong poke composition with a lot of sustain. The PGG comp is fairly short range, right? The only person with real range is Syndra, and that in of itself alone isn't really enough. So you're basically looking to go hard, to go in as hard as you possibly can, but doing that into a Zoe, into a Tahm Kench is really hard. And I think that without this Yorick being a threat in the side lane, you might be into trouble, just like Pabu possibly might be here, but does get the walk away. And it does depend on execution. And I think this is something that Pentanet can do, but it is not easy, right? No. It's a very fine line that you need to walk. Whereas for C9, I think they can walk up to an objective, as long as they have vision, set up shop, and just fire skill shots after skill shot after skill shot.
Yeah, and I think the side lane being a threat is going to be extraordinarily important, like you say, as the bubble is going to connect. Chaz just going to have a little bit of a snooze here, but Perks is going to let him, as the sphere is going to come down. Actually, a pretty nice scatter of the week there to guarantee the stun and some extra damage, as there's the Dark Procession once again. Biopanther not going to be able to trap Fudge, as he can just head towards the skies, and will be okay for the moment. But you can see the Yorick having a much better time as the game goes on.
Really cute from Fudge there, able to jump out with the ghouls. However, if the ghouls are in the cage, you have a really big problem there, because I think in that scenario, Biopanther just walks up to you, shovels you in the face, and there's really not a lot you can do. And that's why I expect C9 to try and get Fudge out of that lane as soon as possible. And that's why that first Dragon pickup from Blabber was really, really key, because it means that there will be much more pressure on Pentanet if C9 pick up a subsequent Drake to actually deal with it, right? Because you can't give up a soul for free. You need to actually be able to get something sizable for it.
Wasn't there a superhero called the Shoveler?
I actually don't know, and generally I'm fairly up to date on superheroes.
I don't know whether it's like, you know, one of the classics, but I think there was an old superhero called the Shoveler.
Oh, okay. Oh, you learn something every day.
Yeah, if you guys know, if you could pop over onto Twitter and let me know, that would be absolutely fantastic. We could possibly update next time Yorick is played, so maybe never, not entirely sure. As Biopanther up, yeah, exactly. Maybe Biopanther just shows how completely completely busted this champion is there's a hook connecting onto Vulcan, and not a lot of eventuating, as is basically what happens in this situation. As, oh, another beautifully placed Dark Procession. Basically, Uda has the worst time ever trying to get through this Yorick, because he just puts walls up. Oh my goodness.
I said it as a joke, but it's starting, like, this is the second time this has happened, and now I'm just starting to wonder, like, is this actually, is this just a hidden tech against the Ude pick? Like, have we finally found it after he's been nerfed time and time again? It could be the case. I think the problem with Biopanther is going to become, or with the Yorick pick rather, is going to be a lot more apparent once you get into team fights, right? Because now we're still in the laning phase. Yes. As mentioned before, Sven and Vulcan have been impeccable with applying this pressure on bot side. Either due to the top side pressure, it's still relatively even, but I think once the actual team fights break out, I want to see how they use it, because Biopanther just teleported to the top side, right? Like, he's very clear. He's not leaving this lane. Like, he's not going anywhere. He's
and I don't think he should. I 100% think
agree.
that, like, if Yorick's going to be effective, then you need to play the one-man army game, and I guess it's not a one-man army. It's Biopanther up there with Julia, but still, that's how they're going to be able to win this one out. And as whether Pentanet.gg can actually weather all of the poke, all of the siege that C9 has available, not to mention the fact that they're picking up Drake after Drake after Drake as well. As our soul will, of course, be a Cloud. It's my birthday.
Even on your birthday.
I need Cloud Souls for my birthday. Everyone knows that they're my favorite. And that is what's going to happen here. Of course, if C9 grab it, they only need to go through one Drake that doesn't feel super great before they get the soul, which feels actually pretty amazing, as Azael, of course, taught us yesterday, which is fantastic. As the Dark Binding is going to miss, but still a decent amount of CC as Pabu chasing after Vulcan. There's the Grey Health pop down to about 400 as the S rank is a little bit too late, and the Dawning Shadow comes down, and that's going to keep Vulcan alive. C9, that's exactly what this lane is designed for, and now Blabber's going to come in, they're going to try and turn on the aggression. The anchor is going to go wide as now Praetor's trying to get some damage down. Decoy with the Black Shield, and now the teleport to come forward. Chaz looking to try and turn up. Can he land the spears is the question. Vulcan is the target, and they do manage to pick it up after finally one of these anchors lands, but now Perks comes in, and it's a shooting gallery for C9. Exhaust comes through. Blabber picks up the first one. Praetor still dashing around, though, trying to get more. Another hook is going to connect. Perks might be going to 0-2, but no, able to get himself around and has himself the stopwatch as well, as Chaz, desperate for it, waits for him to come back, and he does manage to pick up the kill, but now Sven picking up so much in this bot lane fight. It's a fiesta, but it's fun, and C9 walk away ahead.
What a bloodbath in the bot lane here from C9. It starts out as just a Pentanet play, but it devolves into something much more than that here. Atlas, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to need to check the replay to see who actually gets the better end of this, because I'm not entirely sure. All summoners get focused or get used to by Vulcan and Sven, and that in itself is a big win for Pentanet. However, they smell an opportunity here. The teleport comes in, which means that Chaz does have pride on the play. Perks, however, had already been roaming at this point, right? And that's why Pentanet recognized, okay, we actually need to get out of it. We know that the Zoe is coming. But then the subsequent execution here from either team on this skirmish is beautiful. Praetor here able to block the Paddle Star, the hook on top of Perks, which means that in the end he will go down. And I agree with you. I think you benefit from the C9 by forcing out so much more from Pentanet. But it's not a very one-sided trade. Both teams walk away with something here.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I just read the difference in what the numbers said at the top of the screen. That's what led me to the conclusion. So certainly C9 picking up the extra kill in the trade certainly feels good. However, like you say, certainly some positives here, especially with the fact that Perks is sitting at 0-2, and he is someone that C9 have leaned on all year long. And we'll see whether he's going to be able to pull himself back. Of course, Zoe's still going to be able to do Zoe things, but you're just not going to quite have the one-shot paddle stars, things like that. Anemic Zoes are very difficult to play out in the mid-game, which should be your playground, right? But it hasn't necessarily been Zoe gets crushed and therefore turret dies, things like that. It's not about losing map control, and I think that C9 will be able to make the Zoe work as we move towards a mid-game if they keep control of the map, which they still have retained.
Because the explosiveness from the C9 comp is something that you can look towards and like, okay, maybe right now, you know, it's a bit of a back and forth, but this next Drake fight is going to be pivotal. If Pentanet can actually either keep C9 off of the Drake, or punish Biopanther, as we do see Blabber make his way over to that top side, and then try to go from there.
Oh, let's see whether the baby cage is going to be in the right spot. And yep, that's both of them alongside Julia. Poor Julia going to get smoked. And okay, that's going to be Biopanther making it out, but one of his biggest tools not going to be there to smack down that turret.
And Sven and Vulcan are the heroes here yet again, because just the fact that they are able to continuously have pressure means that now the vision will finally get swept out. But you saw how long Praetiv and Deco had to wait there. Praetiv might still get caught.
Yeah, Root is going to connect Decoy, trying to keep him alive. The extra bit of CC working out as well as Vulcan. I mean, this Grey health still there, and there's the Dawning Shadow from Sven to pick up the kill onto Decoy. Pentanet.gg now without their support for the ensuing Drake fight, although will come back alive and might actually have an opportunity to walk towards that river, but they will definitely not have control, as now Chaz might be suffering the same fate. Oh my goodness! The shock blast damage. Chaz lucky to have his life, but he'll have to spend some time on the fountain, and more concessions being made here by Pentanet.gg around this map.
And here we see the power of C9. They know how to play with these poke champions, right? Like, sure, as you said, Perks in the early game didn't find the kills he really needed to, but in these scenarios, just him and Fudge being there together, throwing out skill shots continuously, make it so much harder to get anything done. They got the turret before Shelly even got the chance to get the first charge in. Will do so now.
Yeah.
And as a whole, as long as C9 win this fight, which looking good, Praetiv might get caught here.
Yeah, that's a very fast Blabber making his way back down towards this bottom side as, oh, special delivery. And that's an easy one for Sven. Biopanther's getting the heck out of here. He's like, why did I leave my top lane? It's not what we want. Scatter the weak, not going to find anyone. No one on C9 weak enough for that ability, apparently, as Blabber will find Chaz. He's going to hit the death chamber, as Yorick is going to trudge his way back towards top lane.
And here we see the problem with Pentanet's composition. I love that Biopanther tries to help his teammate, but he's a Yorick. That's not really what the champion does.
Yeah, please no.
He comes in, and it's a bit of a lose-lose situation, because as Pentanet, you also know, if Yorick doesn't teleport there, Praetiv just dies, and then the Drake gets given up, right? So they know that they need to try and do something here. Might look for another pick on Perks, though.
Yeah, potentially. We'll see whether Decoy can make it on down. Death Charge after the flash is going to come on forward. Now Perks seeing who he wants to exhaust, but it looks like the chances are not going to be there. Just too much CC with the good old Morgana Nautilus combo, and nowhere that Perks could go. Just a little bit too overextended.
What is happening, though, is that C9, as mentioned previously, even though they're giving up kills left and right, it doesn't really impact the larger state of the game. Sven is getting ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's what we saw earlier. I think that I understand the Pentanet call to try and contest it, because if you lose Praetiv here, it's 100% gone on the Drake. But Biopanther, look at his health bar, right? Look at his mana bar, and he's a Yorick. All those factors should be enough sign for them to say, listen, we can't do this. We need to just back off here and let them have it, because at this point in time, they've already got it anyway. No use or need for us to give up more kills. And now we slowly get to the point where Biopanther, in like 3.5 minutes, has to be hitting inhibitors if you want this trade to be worth, because it's going to be like 21-minute Cloud Soul for your opponent is real bad news.
Yes, most certainly is. However, was able to at least break down the outer turret there towards the top side, as Julia taking some fire here from Fudge. He's going to miss the shock blast, though, and that is going to cause Julia to survive for the moment. But C9 still controlling this rift completely, and we've already illustrated it, but it's even more important. We talk about map control and the fact that it is really, really strong. However, if you've got a poke composition, it's paramount. If it was the opposite circumstance, then it would be a very, very bad news story. But this is exactly where C9 want to be in this stage of the game.
And you have one of the best hard counters to a possible solution poke is hard engage, right? You don't really have a flanking champion. If Biopanther was a Gnar, you know, you can look for the flank, you can find the backline axes and throw in the whole team.
Yep.
But what you're trying to do now is have Deco run forward, try and hook someone, but Vulcan is just always there. He's not going to let everyone die on his team, and there is so much damage available that as long as someone stays alive, they have a problem. Well, the man towards the top lane here.
Yeah, Decoy underneath the turret now, Fudge. Oh, it's another shooting gallery, and Decoy is going to be on the wrong end of it. Perks still looking for even more, but it looks like Chaz and Pabu will be able to make their way out. Once again, Praetiv on the wrong side of this one, as he's just going to try and scoot his way out. Will do so successfully, as we can see, but there are not a lot of turrets available, as Praetiv's going to Blade Whirl and Flash, and that is going to get him to safety.
Yeah, I think the Blade Wall would have been enough for the Zoe bubble, but Tom Kench would have definitely gotten onto you, and if that happens, you are still very dead. Better safe than sorry is the VOD here, but slowly Pentanet are losing control of this game, and don't forget this is a must-win for C9 here.
Oh no, there's a lot of sleepiness going on here as another Dawning Shadow flies on forward. Pentanet.gg underneath their own turret will be taken down. Chaz falls as well, and now C9 will be able to take this turret if they would like to. However, have a look at Yorick. It's getting to work on the bottom side. Yorick and Julia trying to take matters into their own hands.
It's the epitome of a Yorick composition, right? Like, you're losing the rest of the map, but Yorick is definitely getting those turrets. Unfortunately, it's too much, and this is the thin line we were talking about. As Pentanet, you either need to play well enough defensively or find offensive openings. The offensive openings were never in contention, and C9 has been grouping so well, has been playing so aggressively. They might be able to maybe get the turret here, but with the empowered backs coming in, it's the Red Bull Baron power play coming in for C9, and it's looking good for the Atlas.
It certainly is. Up to 1.6 at the moment, but we're expecting that Red Bull Baron power play to only extend as this game goes on. Of course, we've got an outer turret on the bottom side of the map, outer turret on the top side of the map for C9 to still get, and it looks like a stiff breeze is what's keeping them up at this stage anyway, so this money will start flowing through, and this is when, you know, these split push style compositions kind of fall apart, because if the split push doesn't have any time to get any splitting done without losing your Nexus, that's when you can fall into problems, especially against a composition that sieges so well, like what C9 have put together. As Chaz is going to take his blue buff. That is... Oh, was it? Yep. Yes, he did. He got it. Thought that might have been stolen away from Perks, as Vulcan does have to flash. He's going to keep himself alive, and C9 continuing to move on forward. Pentanet.gg not going quietly into the night. As you can see, pushing out this mid lane. Not actually able to get too much, and you can see Fudge still getting work done there towards the bottom side of the map. He'll be able to grab that inner turret. That's going to be the second one after we did talk about the amount of turrets that they had available to them. As, oh dear, Praetor discovered once again just having a bit of a tour of the river when he didn't really want to.
And we talk about the split pushing from Biopanther, but Fudge himself is doing an expert job here as well. I do love that 000 KDA, that is Yorick special, you know, that is what beautiful. You want to see. And I'm joking, but that is what the champion is designed to do. However, it feels like at this point in the game, Pentanet didn't hit the timing. They lost too much pressure on the rest of the map due to the really strong priority that C9 have had. Blabber with a great game on the Ude here, picking up basically every objective that you could dream of. And there you see it again, right? Like every opening that might happen, Vulcan is there to make it work. And now you force a team fight with a Yorick. You never want to be in that position.
Yep, Pabu's still struggling here as well. Loses half of his health bar to an empowered Shock Blast as C9 are relentless on this inhibitor turret in the mid lane. Decoy down to half. They managed to take down that turret, as you can see. But Biopanther, he has to spend time in the mid lane. This is absolutely not where he wants to be, trying to get his team back into it, as the Cloud Soul going to be available for C9 as well if they would like to collect it. And they will do so. The map very, very dark for Pentanet.gg at this point in time.
And it's one of those situations where, in terms of ultimates, you know, movement speed after ultimates is not that amazing, but in terms of just general movement speed that you get, it's really good for Blabber. It allows C9 as a whole to also keep doing what they're doing. On one hand, respond to Biopanther if he does actually push too far up, but simultaneously weave in and out of Pentanet's effective range, kite back when they try to engage on you, which, again, really, really hard. I'm not sure how many Soul Sven is at the moment. I think the last time we saw was like 80, 100. I wouldn't be surprised if he's approaching that 120 mark. And I feel from this point in the game, Pentanet need an absolute miracle, and this is the real problem to me, is I don't think that their comp really facilitates that.
This is not the miracle that we were after, as at least Black Shield is going to get Pabu a little bit further away, and thankfully that Spell Immune is going to survive through the bubble. However, not through all of the damage that was coming down. Sven, once again, another fantastic ultimate in that last auto, just to take down Decoy, as Chaz gonna get mown down as well. Biopanther wondering why there are more than one other person in the game alongside him. The Yorick is also going to fall, and unfortunately for Pentanet.gg, they've just fallen too far behind, and C9 will be able to dot some I's and cross some T's, and most likely take down this Nexus as well. And I think for a lot of C9 fans, this is a little bit too late when it comes to picking up the wins. However, every single one is important. They need to basically win everything else that they possibly can. They want to try and challenge PSG for that 4th slot.
But it's a start, and that's the important thing, right? They needed this win more than anything, and Pablo and Bradiv, it's the last Hail Mary attempt, but I don't think it's going to be enough, Atlas.
No, it's just not going to happen. Sven is absolutely massive, and Chaz flashing onto his fountain, not wanting to be a statistic as the Nexus does fall down. Yorick just going to try and get a bit of damage here, but he's also just going to be sitting on his fountain as Sven. Okay, bites off a little bit more than he can chew as C9. They'll get to work on this Nexus eventually, and C9 just savoring their first victory here for the Rumble stage. And look, it's not exactly against RNG, but they will take it and keep their hopes alive moving forward.
It's an incredibly vital win here for C9 because Pentanet comes into this game with really no expectations, no pressure, right? And I love the Yorick attempt. I think we saw what they wanted to do with it, but C9 identified that correctly, plays so well around the pressure that they're able to generate in every other lane. And there's really not that much more to be done then from Pentanet as C9 really pick up every objective in the early game, and then your split push, it doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I like that, you know, like you mentioned, it's once again just an experiment, something a little bit different. Pentanet.GG showing that they can be the mad scientists here of the Rumble stage, understanding as well that, you know, C9 is absolutely a formidable opponent. You need to bring a little bit of that X factor if you are going to go up against them with any hope of victory. And I just love seeing it from the Pentanet guys, right? Like, with their lane swap that they had before, now pulling out the Yorick, they've already played Fiddlesticks and Karthus. What more can you want?
And on the side of C9, I'm happy to see Blabber have the kind of games that we were kind of expecting coming into this tournament, right? Like, I feel like this was a really necessary game for specifically him. Picked up every objective, was set up for success, and made it work from there.
No, exactly right. It's absolutely fantastic to